Good afternoon. House Education Finance Committee will come to order. Let's see, who would like to move the minutes? I'm going to throw this open. It's a big competition. Representative Sandsted, raise your hand really quickly.
That teacher in her.
That teacher and me. Madam Chair, I move the minutes.
All right, Representative Sandsted moves the minutes. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you, Representative Sandsted. Minutes are approved. And today, we are going to hear from Representative Erickson and nonpartisan staff to kick off. We'll be discussing House File 3315, and this is the policy bill, which again has been approved by the Policy Committee and sent to us. So I will move that House File 3315 be re-referred to the Committee on Ways and Means, but today we will be laying it over. And we will have the commissioner with us to testify, as well as a number of other people. So I just don't think there's any way we'll get to amendments, but just know that there will be opportunities after the break. We're just hearing about the bill today. And with that, Representative Erickson, please tell us about your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. It's a pleasure to be before this committee to present the 2018 Policy Bill, House File 3315. What this proposal does is focus on success for our students, with almost every part of the bill also engaging teachers and parents. This policy proposal makes changes to the Fair Pupil Dismissal Act and to discipline policies within our schools. It provides protection of student data that is collected within our schools and districts and places the data privacy proposal in the Education Code. It makes changes to compulsory attendance. This proposal also adds detail to our health standards and provides emphasis on civics and government being taught in our high schools for a credit. It provides for screening for dyslexia and training for teachers in that regard, and for a public working group to discuss a variety of issues facing special education, including the rising cost of a cross-subsidy. It recodifies the intermediate schools into the Education Code. It empowers school counselors with opportunities for them to offer to our students to learn about the military and career options in skilled trades and manufacturing. It ensures that our children will not be shamed when they cannot pay for lunch. It provides for important information about school and district performance to close the achievement gap. It creates one accountability system by embedding ESSA, our federal law, into the World's Best Workforce, which is our state accountability system. It creates a performance system for parents to know and understand how their schools and districts achieve in attendance, high school graduation, and progress in learning the English language, plus it includes the ESSA and the World's Best Workforce data. It ensures that parents receive as soon as possible the initial MCA scores in reading and math. It makes changes for the commissioner to choose at least one high school equivalency test for use and to the awarding of an equivalency diploma. It makes some changes to charter school law. It adds home district responsibility for transportation of homeless students who are in special needs and for eligibility for their families in the Early Learning Scholarship Program. Finally, it engages the Department of Education even more in the education of our children. And with that, Madam Chair, I would like to turn to our nonpartisan House researcher, Christina Para.
Ms. Para?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, can you hear me?
Not real well.
Is this better?
That's better.
Okay. Madam Chair, members, I'll just be walking through each article. Article 1, General Education. Sections 1 and 2 are modified definitions. To the extent that state funds are available, districts are required to provide non-public school pupils with textbooks and other materials. And the state reimburses the districts for the cost of providing those materials. So these two sections modify the definitions of textbook and individualized instructional materials to include a teacher's guide that comes with the materials. Section 3 strikes aid for special education litigation costs from the list of aid to districts, since the litigation aid was repealed a few years back. Section 4 eliminates references to obsolete payment procedures. And then Article 2, education excellence, is where most of the language in the bill is.
And Ms. Para, I'm sorry, just because I haven't had the opportunity to sit through committee on this before, those last two items, was that just kind of cleaning up the statute?
Madam Chair, that's correct. Those were from the governor's bill, changes.
All right, thank you. Please continue.
Article 2, education excellence, Section 1 requires the initial serving school district to continue to provide transportation services to and from a cooperative program for a homeless student with an IEP for the student who changes serving school districts during the school year. It allows the initial and current serving school district to mutually agree to an alternative transportation arrangement. Section 2, education records, requires a school transmitting a transferring student's educational records to a new school to include information about a pupil withdrawal and services that a pupil needs to prevent inappropriate behavior from recurring. Section 3, legitimate exemptions, allows a student to be excused from school for up to 3 days to participate in any activity necessary to join a branch of the United States Armed Forces. Section 4, required academic standards, makes a few changes, specifically to the health requirements. Requires a school district to include sexual exploitation prevention instruction in a health curriculum, and requires school districts to include substance misuse prevention instruction in a health curriculum in certain grades. Section 5 requires a student beginning 9th grade in the 2021 school year and later to take a government and citizenship course in 11th or 12th grade for credit. Section 6 modifies, the next few sections relate to the World's Best Workforce statute. So Section 6 defines certain terms. State plan is the plan submitted by the Commissioner of Education under ESSA, and that is approved by the United States Department of Education. An effective teacher is a teacher whose most recent summative teacher evaluations resulted in placing or keeping the teacher on an improvement process. An experienced teacher is a licensed teacher who's been employed as a teacher for 3 years or less. An out-of-field teacher is a licensed teacher who is providing instruction in an area in which the teacher is not licensed. Section 7 amends the performance measures under the World's Best Workforce. It bases the academic achievement gap on the MCAs in reading and math, measures career and college readiness by student performance on the high school MCAs, as well as successful completion of rigorous coursework that is part of a well-rounded education, and adds performance measures from the state plan to the World's Best Workforce performance measures. Section 8 adds statewide goals in reference to the benchmarks that are required under in a district's World's Best Workforce plan. Section 9, the World's Best Workforce report, eliminates a requirement that the school board publish the school performance report in the local newspaper. Requires the commissioner to include student performance on the performance measures that were the ones previously discussed that were amended in the school performance reports, and requires the school board to publish the report for the district and each school site on the district website or to link to the department's reports. Section 10, annual evaluation, amends the requirement that the commissioner identify districts not making sufficient progress by requiring the commissioner to use the performance measures for identification, requiring identification of school sites in addition to school districts, modifies the 3-year period that is reviewed to identify schools, and substitutes performance goals for teaching and learning. It also requires the commissioner to review the curricula of 3 to 5 identified school sites to ensure that they're aligned with state standards. It requires the identified districts to implement evidence-based strategies and best practices. and modifies the commissioner's report to the legislature by substituting progress toward meeting world's best workforce goals for the district's performance goals. Section 11 requires this is no longer the world's best workforce, this is a different statute now. Section 11 requires a school district to screen all students for dyslexia between the beginning of kindergarten and the beginning of second grade, as well as any student who exhibits characteristics associated with dyslexia from second grade on. Section 12 amends the duties of the dyslexia specialist. The dyslexia specialist statute was added last year. It's a position at the Department of Education, and this requires the dyslexia specialist to provide guidance to school districts and charter schools on accessing screening tools, implementing screening, and participating in professional development opportunities on intervention strategies and accommodations for students with dyslexia. Section 13, secondary students' personal learning plans. It amends the personal learning plan statute to require that plans help students access armed forces career options, require school districts to grant military recruiters and representatives of careers in the skilled trades and manufacturing the same access to students that the schools grant to colleges and employers, and encourages school districts to sponsor an armed forces career opportunity day to fall. Section 14, substance misuse prevention, encourages school districts to integrate substance misuse prevention instruction into existing programs, curriculum, or the school environment. Section 15, Patriotic Society access to schools. Subdivision 1 of this new section defines Patriotic Society by reference to federal law. Subdivision 2 encourages a school board to provide a representative of a patriotic society the opportunity to speak with students during the day, and there are certain days named there. And Subdivision 3 requires a patriotic society that wants to speak to students at a school with written notice to the school board. Section 16, statewide testing. This section requires the Commissioner of Education to administer the MCAs as late as possible each school year. Currently, students take the MCAs in March, April, and May, and this requires the Commissioner to publish the testing schedule at least 2 years in advance. And then you'll see there are several clauses that are stricken out. That's obsolete language. Section 17, statewide and local assessment. Clarifies that MCA student performance data and achievement reports must be available to school districts and teachers within 3 days of the test. Section 18 requires the school district to disseminate preliminary individual student performance data and achievement report to the parent and teacher of a student within 30 days of the test. And it requires the school district to disseminate the testing report to the teacher with the achievement level and performance history before the beginning of the school year. And one thing about the preliminary student data, the district has to notify the parent and teacher that that data is preliminary and subject to validation. State growth target. Section 19 requires the commissioner to consult with the state demographer to identify student categories used to report student academic achievement and growth. And it changes Asian Pacific Islander to Asian within the categories used to report student academic achievement and growth. That's based on federal law as well, and it's a technical change. This section also eliminates district-wide assessments as indicators of achievement, eliminates the requirement that the commissioner use a value-added growth indicator and identify schools as medium and high growth when reporting student growth. Requires the commissioner to report academic growth rate, which will be defined in the next section, and modifies the graduation rate reporting requirements by striking the reference to 4- and 6-year rates. Section 20 is the academic achievement rating system. And that's a new statute. I'll go through the subdivision. Subdivision 1 is the commissioner duties, and it requires the commissioner to develop an academic achievement rating system that assigns to each school and district a star rating as well as an academic achievement score based on the measures for the star rating. And both the star rating and the score must be reported annually on school performance reports. Subdivision 2 defines several terms. The academic growth rate is the average level of improvement in statewide test results for the current year over the previous year across all student groups in a school. And then there's also I'll go through a few of them. The low-income student achievement rate. There are definitions for that, as well as the student of color achievement gap score, 4-year graduation rate gap score, statewide reading test, students of color. And then those terms are used in the next few subdivisions. The primary school rating components, these are the components for the commissioner to base elementary and middle school star ratings. And those are the percentage of students rated proficient on the statewide reading and math tests, the academic growth rate for the statewide reading and math test, the low-income student achievement gap score, the student of color achievement gap score, the English learner proficiency rate, and the consistent attendance rate. For secondary school, the ratings are based on the percentage of students rated proficient on the statewide reading and math test, the 4-year graduation rate gap score, the low-income student achievement gap score, the students of color achievement gap score, the English learner proficiency rate, and the consistent attendance rate. And the consistent attendance rate is something that's used in ESSA. Subdivision 5, district rating components, requires the commissioner to base the district ratings on the percentage of third grade students rated proficient on the statewide reading test, the low-income student achievement gap score at the district level, the student of color achievement gap score at the district level, the percentage of high school students rated proficient on the statewide reading and math tests, and the district's 4-year high school graduation rates. Section 21 requires the commissioner to report the school and district star and academic achievement ratings and to calculate growth rates as required by ESSA. Section 22 includes data used to set goals for federal expectations in the category of non-public data until the commissioner publicly releases the data. Section 23 is a new section of law, program to prevent sexual assault. Subdivision 1, consent, requires the commissioner to help districts and charter schools develop a consent program to prevent and reduce the incidence of sexual assault. And it states what elements the program must include. Requires the department to assist the service cooperative to implement a consent program if the district doesn't implement one. And it defines consent as affirmative, conscious, and voluntary agreement to engage in sexual activity. Subdivision 2 allows districts and charters to accept funds for consent programs from public and private sources. Section 24, the next few sections amend the Fair Pupil Dismissal Act. The first section of that is a definition of non-exclusionary disciplinary policies and practices, which is a mouthful, but I'll be saying it several times. It defines the term as policies and practices that require school officials to intervene and redirect and support a pupil's behavior before dismissal, and provides examples of these policies and practices. Section 25 defines pupil withdrawal agreements as a verbal or written agreement between an administration and parent to withdraw a student to avoid expulsion or exclusion dismissal proceedings, and those agreements are limited to 12 months. Section 26 requires a school to consider using non-exclusionary disciplinary policies and practices where appropriate before dismissal proceedings or pupil withdrawal agreements. Section 27 requires alternative education services when a pupil is suspended for more than 5 consecutive school days. Section 28 requires the school officials to allow a suspended pupil to complete schoolwork during a suspension and receive full academic credit. and encourages the school principal to designate an employee as a liaison to allow the pupil to receive course materials and complete assignments. Section 29 requires notice of an intent to take action. That's a notice of intent to exclude or expel a student. And it requires that the notice explain the grounds for expelling a pupil instead of using non-exclusionary disciplinary policies and practices. It substitutes non-exclusionary disciplinary policies and practices, that description, for boards at alternative educational services in the written notice. And it requires notice that legal assistance resource lists be posted on the department website.
All right, and members, if you have a phone or a computer near the microphones, you may need to move it. We're getting a little feedback. I'm not sure if that's what it is, but maybe not. All right, Ms. Para.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Section 30 requires an admission or readmission plan to include measures to improve pupil behavior and requires parental involvement in the process. Section 31 requires school boards to report student withdrawals through the electronic reporting system and include a statement on non-exclusionary disciplinary policies and practices given to the pupil. Section 32 requires districts to adopt policies that include non-exclusionary disciplinary policies and practices. Schools have to ensure alternative educational services are provided. Districts have to review a pupil's schoolwork and grades to make sure the pupil is on track for readmission. And they have to provide a pupil a list of community mental health programs after expulsion. Pupils that are receiving mental health services in the district remain eligible for those services until they enroll in a new district. And districts must notify parents of the reporting requirements that are associated with the pupil withdrawal agreements. Section 33 requires parent notification after a pupil is removed from class 5 times in one school year, or before it was 10 times. Section 34 requires the school administrator to immediately notify a parent when a pupil is removed from a school building by a peace or school resource officer unless notice is prohibited by law. Section 35, that includes the amendments to the Fair Pupil Dismissal Act. Section 35 requires PELSB to maintain a list of essential data elements that school districts provide about licensed and non-licensed staff members. Section 36 eliminates the requirement that school district clerks report certain information to the commissioner. That information is separately reported to the department by the school district. Section 37 allows a non-public 10th grade student to take a career and technical education course offered by Minnesota State College or University through the PSEO program. 10th grade students enrolled in school districts already can do this under a separate subdivision. Section 38 eliminates some obsolete language related to some amendments to the graduation incentives program. Section 39 modifies information submitted to the American Indian Education Parent Advisory Committee. Modifies the submission of the reasons for not concurring with educational programs for American Indian students offered by the school board or American Indian school. Section 40. Section 40 begins the sections that affect charter schools. So these are amending Chapter 124E. And the first one eliminates a requirement that an organization applying to be an authorizer provide an assurance that it's committed to serving as an authorizer for the full 5-year term. Section 41 accelerates by 1 year the election for an ongoing board of directors and provides that the term of office for those initial members begins July 1. Other terms are as provided in the school's bylaws. Section 42 modifies the charter school board of directors membership criteria and requires the board structure to be stated in the school corporation's bylaws. Section 43 modifies the training requirements for the board of directors. Certain training must be done before the members are seated, and some other training must be completed within 12 months of being seated. Section 44 requires a hearing on a non-renewal or termination of a charter school contract to be recorded at the authoriser's expense, and that recording has to be preserved for 3 years and made available to the public. Section 45 makes several changes. First, it modifies the lottery exceptions by requiring a charter elementary school in the city of Nerstrand to give preference to students residing within 5 miles of the school. And it also gives a 2-mile radius preference for students within 2 miles of Castle Rock, a charter school in Castle Rock Township. Section also adds an agent of school to the prohibition on charter school distributing services or goods to students or parents, and adds a prohibition on distributing payments and other incentives to students and parents. Modifies the conditions in which a student is no longer considered enrolled, and the section also makes technical changes, converting some paragraphs into subdivisions. Section 46 requires the charter school to document its efforts to disseminate required information in its annual report. Section 47 relates back to the essential data provision for Pelsby, so this eliminates the requirement that MDE maintain that essential data since it's shifted over to Pelsby. Section 48 requires that basic skills annual expenditure report to be reported under the world's best workforce. Section 49 eliminates an obsolete reporting requirement for the Minneapolis School District. Section 50 eliminates a reference to the licensing division of Pelsby. That's a technical change since the licensing division was eliminated and those duties were shifted over to Pelsby. Section 51 includes solicitation of children to engage in sexual conduct and communication of sexually explicit materials to children in the definition of sexual abuse. Section 52 makes charter schools eligible for grants for non-conventional teacher residency pilot programs. And Section 53 is a reviser's instruction that's recodifying the intermediate school district sections in Chapter 123C, so it will now be within the K-12 education code rather than in the higher ed chapters. Section 54, that's the repealer. And it repeals statutes related to commissioner reporting on best practices in schools that are high performing, statute relating to districts developing plans and strategies to improve graduation rates for students with emotional or behavioral disorders, a subdivision that allows a district to request the department to make a payment to a third party school district reporting on special education litigation costs, and the reporting requirement for the Minneapolis School Board. That is Article 2. Article 3, teachers. Section 1, school counselors. It amends the school counselor statute to encourage school counselors to present and explain armed forces career options and benefits to students, and inform parents and students of the military enlistment exam. Allows the counselors to consult with the Department of Labor and Industry on resources for students interested in the career and trade, in the skilled trades or in manufacturing. And it prohibits a counselor from interfering with the student's enlistment in the armed forces. Section 2 authorizes school employees who provide career advice to students. They can satisfy their professional continuing education requirements by attending training on armed forces career options or careers in the skilled trades and manufacturing. Section 3 is substitutes Pelsby for Board of Teaching, so that's a technical change. Section 4 requires Pelsby to survey board-approved teacher preparation programs on their dyslexia instruction offerings. It allows Pelsby to consult with a dyslexia specialist at the department when surveying those programs, and Pelsby has to report to the legislature on its findings. Article 4, special education, it's just the one section. It's the special education working group that Bill was heard here previously, and so the working group is to review special education delivery and costs and make recommendations to reduce costs if warranted. So this section specifies the members from organizations that the executive director would appoint a member, and some members would be selected by the Commissioner of Education with there'd be an application process. And the group would report to the legislature by January 15th, 2019. And the 2019 legislature is encouraged to convene a legislative study group to review those recommendations and make its own recommendations. Article 5, Facilities and Technology. These are protections for student data. Chapter 125B generally has provisions relating to technology in the schools. So Section 1 makes the other sections that I will go through applicable to charter schools because those sections only refer to school districts. Section 2, technology providers, imposes new requirements on technology providers and schools that contract with those providers. Subdivision 1 defines a technology provider as a person who contracts with a school district to provide technological devices for student use and creates, receives, or maintains student data under the contract. Subdivision 2 makes it clear that those providers are subject to the Data Practices Act. It provides that all the educational data that a technology provider creates or receives or maintains does not belong to the technology provider. It makes the technology provider subject to the Data Practices Act current data breach notification law. Requires that technology provider to destroy or return to the school all educational data that is created, received, or maintained under the contract. It prohibits a technology provider from selling, sharing, or disseminating educational data except under a valid delegation or assignment of contract. The technology provider can't use that educational data for any commercial purpose, such as advertising. And the provider has to establish procedures to secure the data and allow only authorized persons to access it, and has to maintain a log of use that records information for when any individual accesses that data. Section 3 is requirements for school districts. Subdivision 1 requires the district to notify parents of the technology provider contracts at the beginning of the school year. It specifies the content of the notice and requires the district to post its contracts with technology providers on the district website. Subdivision 2 requires the district to establish an audit trail, which records when the information is used. And it exempts currently used systems that can't automatically generate a log of use. Subdivision 3 requires the district to provide training on student privacy law and to provide written training materials to personnel and independent contractors. Section 4, school-issued devices. It gives student privacy rights in those devices. Subdivision 1 defines a school-issued device as any technological device that a school issues to a student for the student's dedicated personal use. Subdivision 2 prohibits a government entity or technology provider from accessing information on those devices, location tracking, the camera, monitoring student interaction. And Subdivision 3 creates certain exceptions to that prohibition. So if it is done for an educational purpose or the student consents, if it's permitted by a judicial warrant, if the device is missing or stolen, if it's necessary to protect the health or safety of a student, or if it's necessary to investigate compliance with the school's acceptable use policy. Subdivision 4, if a government entity or technology provider monitors the device to protect the student's health or safety, it has to provide notice and an explanation to the student or parent, unless that notice itself would pose a threat to the health or safety. And Section 5 makes these provisions applicable to non-public schools. Article 6, nutrition. Section 1 relates to food service contracts, and it clarifies a cross-reference that allows a contract between a school board and food service management company to allow the contract can be for up to 4 years. Section 2, respectful school meals policy. This clarifies that a school district can collect unpaid meal debt as long as the reminders do not demean or stigmatize a child participating in the school lunch program. A participant meaning the school district can't deny a school lunch to students even if they have an outstanding meal balance. It requires them to provide meals to students in a respectful manner and prohibits withdrawing the meal from the student after it has been served, even if the student has an outstanding meal balance. Prohibits the school district from limiting a student's participation in school activities, including graduation ceremonies, based on the unpaid balances. And it prohibits a participant from disciplining a student due to an unpaid student meal balance. Article 7, Early Childhood and Family Support. Section 1 exempts parents or guardians of children in protective services or who are homeless from the requirement to provide income verification to qualify for early learning scholarships. Section 2 extends the time that a child under the age of 3 who receives a scholarship has to complete the developmental screening. Those are usually administered at age 3. And Section 3 strikes a provision that allowed a pilot site to qualify to accept an early learning scholarship before becoming rated through the Parent Aware system. And finally, Article 8. These are all technical changes. Last year, the statute allowed the commissioner to select more than one high school equivalency test, so it is not all the GED. And these 3 sections just make conforming changes.
All right, thank you, Ms. Para. Any questions for Representative Erickson or Ms. Para? Representative Mariani?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Actually, only just a couple questions. One, on our Article 2, Section 5, on line 9.5. This is Representative Erdahl's civics provision. And of course, Madam Chair, we heard his bill the other day, and he moved to amend that. Obviously, that happened after this engrossment, but I just wanted to highlight that out, that change is not here, obviously, but, to invite Representative Erickson's expression of adopting that change and as we move forward with this.
Thank you, Representative Mariani, and we're going to continue to work on this.
And
I appreciate that.
Representative Mariani?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And then on Article 3, Section 2, there's a couple of sections. One is on line 5922. So this has to do with the new directives to counselors relative to information about service for students in the armed forces. And I actually missed this earlier when we were going through this bill. But on line 59.22, the statutory language would read that a school counselor must not discourage or otherwise interfere. And I suppose maybe the question really is this, Representative Erickson or Chair Erickson, when we say must not discourage or otherwise interfere, is it your intent and our intent to have a counselor not share information with a student about other viable options for them?
Representative Erickson?
Madam Chair and Representative Mariani, of course not. But what we heard in testimony from our testifiers from the recruitment office was that sometimes when military service was an option, perhaps the counselor wanted to move the student in a different direction, and we want to ensure that the student still has the opportunity to know that a career in the military or military service is a viable option. It's not to discredit any other options, absolutely not.
Well,
Representative Mariani?
and Madam Chair and Chair Erickson, I think it's important for us to get legislative intent here, and perhaps that might be language that could be tweaked to be much more specific. I can see possibility where perhaps a litigation-free person might interpret a counselor's, sharing, oh, and you might also look at this as being translated into discouragement or otherwise interfering. So I think, perhaps just, being a little bit more specific might be helpful and consistent with your intent. And then, Madam Chair and Chair Erickson, on line 60 and 60.7, so this has to do with the same group of counselors, social workers, non-instruction teachers. This has to do with their ongoing professional development, our expectations for them in terms of ongoing professional development. And I thought we had taken care of this in committee, but I'm a little, perhaps we haven't, and I'm a little uncomfortable with the language, which seems to say that that regardless of our expectations for them to develop their cultural competence skills, which are spelled out earlier in this section of law, and there's a couple of other, I think there's EL competency or something related to EL, that in lieu of that, these professionals can submit proof of training on armed forces career options or careers in the skilled trades as evidence of professional growth. And what we talked about in committee broadly was, some discomfort, or frankly, a lot of discomfort about having that replacing those other criteria. I think the intent of the tone, anyway, of the committee at the time was to have this be an add-on and not a replacement for those other expectations. And so again, I'm looking, to you as the author for your intent and your interpretation of what this language means relative to that issue.
Representative Erickson.
Madam Chair and Representative Mariani, of course, this is an option. They may submit proof of training as part of their professional growth. So I think we will have certainly further discussion about how this is worded and the point to which you have made so well, this as an add-on. But I think that's a good discussion we can have. Thank you.
And Madam Chair, I know we'll be marking up the bill in a couple of weeks, and so obviously it'll offer us some opportunities to fine-tune some of this language. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Representative Mariani. And yes, we will have opportunities after the Easter Passover break to take this up and amendment. And we are taking notes on some of the suggestions being made. So, Representative Dabney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just one question off of some of Representative Mariani's questioning. Back to the military recruiter access and the language on 5922 and 23. I know that under federal law, school districts have to surrender the contact information, mailing addresses to the military of high school students. But, again, under federal law, parents can opt out. So with this language, how do parental rights intersect with this? If the counselor knows that the parent has asked that their information, the student's information, not be granted to a military recruiter, but the counselor's under this required not to discourage, the parent has said, clearly something, and it seems murky. And, Representative Mariani raised the concerns about litigious responses. Can you help me where parental rights fit in here?
Representative Erickson.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Representative Dabney. Thinking about what is in this proposal in Article 5 under protecting student data, perhaps an opt-out would be available and we could cross-reference. And perhaps Ms. Para would add any detail to that as to how we could handle that.
Ms. Para.
Madam Chair, Representative Dabney, there is actually another provision in Chapter 13 that relates to military recruiters and student information. So that's not affected by this. That's in Chapter 13, those data practices, and the education of student data section there.
Maybe I have to read Chapter
Representative
13. All right. Thank you. It just seems parental rights need to be in consideration here. And I'm not clear, but it's not your fault. It's clearly mine. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Representative Davany. Oh, Representative Sandsted, did you have your hand up?
I did.
Okay.
Let me just start by asking, are we taking questions on the policy portion of this, or is that what you're hoping to get at next week?
Well, we're taking questions just so people can understand the bill as presented, and then I have a long list of people to testify, starting with the commissioner.
Let's wait on my questions then.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Any other questions at this time? All right. Not seeing any at this time. Thank you very much, Representative Erickson. Thank you, Ms. Para. And I would invite Commissioner Cassellius to come forward. Right, and so, thank you very much for being here, Commissioner. And in interest of your time, if members have questions after your testimony for you, we'll allow that, and then we'll move on to the rest of our testifiers.
Great.
Welcome.
Madam Chair, thank you for having me. Brenda Cassellius, Commissioner of Education. And I first want to thank Representative Erickson and the committee members for their hard work on their policy bill. There's several things in here that we can definitely be supportive of, and some things I think we still need to work on, and a few things that we have some significant issues with, and I'll try to lay those out rather briefly. I'd first like to thank Representative Erickson for including many of the governor's proposals and provisions in the department's technical changes within the bill. And I especially want to thank her for the inclusion of the language prohibiting punishing students in school lunch. As you know, I spoke pretty passionately about this the other day. And also her strengthening of the language around school debt and students' ability to participate in things that make them feel connected at the school, such as extracurriculars, dances, and that sort of thing. So let's keep the matters of adults between adults and not involve in children and punishing them. So I want to really commend Representative Erickson for including that language. I also want to express my appreciation for the inclusion of the governor's initiatives to improve school safety. That's also a very important piece. However, the removal of the current requirement for schools to offer alternative services to students who are either in a withdrawal agreement or expelled needs to be strengthened, and I hope we can work with the chair on that. I think the largest concern that I have overall with the bill is going to be with the summative rating system. We've worked so hard, Wade Nguyen, our assistant commissioner, Stephanie Graff, and Greg Keith, and our entire ESSA team traveled this entire state talking to thousands of Minnesotans, teachers, community members, stakeholders, parents, to develop the accountability system. And we submitted that. It was approved. We had hearings on that. We're very transparent in that. And by developing this new accountability system, we really will have two duplicative accountability systems that will be defeating the purpose I think the chair has to align our world's best workforce and the new ESSA requirements. And we really don't have time for a lot of confusion with the urgency that we have to close achievement gaps. And so I really urge us to work together to align the accountability measures and the new report card to what our Minnesota stakeholders and teachers and community members are saying that they want. I recognize that there are some who really do want a more simple summative rating, and we've committed to trying to be very transparent and create plain language reports out to parents so that they understand the performance of their students. But it's really going a bit too far when we start putting in academic gap measures and other measures that are not in the ESSA accountability system, because then parents get very confused about which one to look for. And I just want the committee members to really understand that we are required by federal law to comply with the federal submission that was approved by the secretary. And so we can't deviate. So if this body forces our hand to create a report card, we'll have two report cards out there. And it will be expensive and duplicative and very troubling for parents. So that's the one thing I think that will be a very big stumbling block for us moving forward if we don't work together. I also want to express the governor's continued concern around the tiered licensing system with the Tier 2 experience pathway to Tier 3. He has put that in his letters last year. This continues to be a concern for him, and so I just want to bring that up. I share Representative Mariani's concerns around the confusion in the language with the counselors and other support staff and their professional development. I just think we should be very clear with the new PELSB board, especially on what the requirements are for licensure and relicensure for our support staff, our social workers, our counselors, around what training they have, and not have it be very murky, especially around this military piece. Again, I commend Representative Erdahl and his commitment to civics. I was a civics teacher. I think it's so important for our kids to be civically engaged. I just don't believe that a test is the best measurement. Actually, the kids right now marching and demonstrating and meeting with all of you and their representatives and expressing their voices in very appropriate ways, contributing at the Minnesota Youth Council. I mean, these are all ways that our children are being civically engaged, and if we want to strengthen our standards and the way that kids' experiences with civics and put a requirement for engagement, I'd be completely supportive of that. But having them take a test, having it be for credit, and adding to our already kind of traditional outdated Carnegie units and seat time, that's just not how kids learn best anymore. So I think if we don't start addressing high school reform, our high schools are going to go extinct if we continue to, put more requirements and barriers in the way of kids to learn in ways that are very experiential, that allow them to get career pathway experience, and these new innovative partnerships that we've done with the really good work that Representative Erickson and the committee's done around innovation zones. So if we continue to add credits and Carnegie units, then we narrow what kids are able to do in terms of their career pathway work. I'd also like to address the issue of lead water. I addressed this in committee prior. I'm glad that we started testing for lead. However, if we don't tell parents and we don't actively tell parents that the lead levels are high, then they can't remediate and send their child with water or ask the school districts to fix it. So, at some point we need to be transparent with our parents, and also make sure that we actually fix the faucet or at least turn it off. So I hope we can address that. I really commend Representative Erickson and the committee and their real best workforce alignment to the ESSA. It's close, but not quite there yet. My team's committed to working with the chair on looking at our ESSA alignment. And then just finally, I'd like to talk a little bit about the things that really carry a cost to the department, and additional personnel and additional work and mandates put on the department with curriculum review, the reporting of the test results of the civics test, the summative rating report card, Aaron's Law, the sexual exploitation, Jake's Law, affirmative consent. These are all carry a cost. Expanding 10th grade technical education courses under post-secondary enrollment options to private school students, that's going to carry a cost. It's not that we're against it. It's just that that's going to take new work for us at the department, and we'll need to address that. And so I just wanted to bring that to your attention. And then just finally, I think it's really wise of this committee and Representative Erickson to put in a special education task force and to really look at the cross-subsidy. This comes back every year. Our special ed is growing. The costs are growing. The number of students is growing. And we need to begin to look at cost containment measures, as well as look at how we address these cross-subsidy strains within our school budgets. So with that, I'd like to open up for questions if there are any.
All right, thank you, Commissioner, we appreciate it. I have a couple questions, and then I'll open it up for the rest of the committee. A couple of comments. One, I know you concerned about the summative rating system contained within the bill, and you made a comment about accountability systems and not having differing ones. Is it your view that accountability system is not consistent with world's best workforce?
That's correct. There's a provision in the bill that says that the account, I don't have it with me, but maybe Adosh can bring me the bill. There's a provision in the bill that says that the accountability would have to be with the provisions that are in the defined. Let me get it exactly. I think I outlined it. What section is that, Adosh? Under the weather, too.
Starts on page 29.
Yes, I thought I color-coded it when I was looking at this here.
So perhaps on page 30.
Yeah, there's one line in here that says that it has to be on those, whatever the provisions are that were defined. Not finding it here now, as I was reading it. Well, I'll come back to it, Madam Chair, and I'll get it for you. And maybe my team knows what I'm talking about here.
Okay, that's fine. Go, you can take a look at that, and I guess I'll just
Which-
allow,
It's just one sentence, and the one sentence would make it so that all of the measures that are defined in the report card would have to be the ones that we report on, rather than the ones that we are federally defining within our Every Student Succeeds Act. And I'll find that provision for you and make sure I get it for you.
okay, thank you. And I'm going to allow Representative Erickson, too, to comment, because I just wanted to know, because I know that you've worked really hard to try to make sure that ESSA and the World's Best Workforce are kind of one accountability system together for our schools, that we aren't, again, layering on top. So I didn't know if you had a response or an opinion on that, Representative Erickson. Nope, okay. All right, other questions for the commissioner?
Madam Chair, well,
Representative Erickson?
thank you, Madam Chair. While the commissioner is looking, I just want to assure her that those proposals that will have a cost to them will not be in the final bill. They'll be reconfigured. If there's any cost in the policy, I will not carry those costs even into the Finance Committee. We will figure out language that would not mandate, that would not force a cost to the department, to our local districts. That's very important to me. And I have an idea as far as, we're still waiting for the writing test, Commissioner, so maybe we could have a prompt on civics as the writing test. That's still in statute,
All right. A little creative solution.
Well,
Commissioner?
Madam Chair, we have to think of Representative Erdahl and his passions, so that would be creative.
It was a very impassioned presentation before the committee. I will give you that, yes.
Well, we could require everyone to come down to the state legislature and meet with their representatives as well, like a field trip, and see the State Department.
Sure.
Come down and do a bill, and there's all kinds of things we could do to give them more money for the civics education.
Agreed. Let's see. So Commissioner, obviously, we've got some differences of opinion for what's in the bill and that on the dashboard and that. And I know you've been convening meetings with stakeholders and looking at the development of a dashboard and school performance report card. So what are you looking at in terms of a timeline for completing that? Because are you still convening stakeholder meetings, or are those being wrapped up? And
Madam Chair, we're still convening our stakeholders and trying to put together the report card. They have some mock-ups for the committees. I'm not sure if the committee has seen those yet. I know that they've been putting them past different focus groups and that, so I know that there's work being done on what those will look like. Because there's not any additional funding for the report card, we're not going to be able to get the robust report card that we'd like to get. It would cost about $1.5 million to do report cards, like some of the other states are doing that are considered really top-notch. Either go for a vendor or create our own. But we do think we can provide and meet the federal requirements by this fall for the changes that we have to have in there to comply with ESSA.
All right, so you are planning to create a report card within existing resources of the agency?
Yes.
My understanding.
That's unless there's additional resources. We were planning to tweak our report card and the interface of how that looks so that it's more plain language for parents based on the stakeholder feedback.
Okay, all right, thank you. Representative Mariani.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On that specific topic, again, and I share the Commissioner's concern with the summative rating approach and rubric that was chosen that's current in this bill. We had quite a discussion about that, as you know, Chair Erickson. I think what, to the Chair's question, because I also raised this in committee as well, in terms of the timing, and I think a sense of urgency around having something develop sooner than later. And I get that, you know, the department is engaged with stakeholder groups. You have to process that out. You know, you're not going to authoritatively make that decision unilaterally. So that's going to take some time. And then obviously, I would think there are resource issues to that. But I think one of the things that wasn't helpful as we had that conversation was having some kind of a glimpse about what the department was looking at. And I get it that the department doesn't want to get out in the head of its stakeholder group and then go to a meeting and get yelled at because you shared something that you shouldn't. But frankly, Dr. Nolan from Rural Ed Association came forward at one of our hearings and laid out a very broad, description of a direction in which the stakeholder group was going, which I think for a number of us, provided some comfort around a tool that, quite frankly, doesn't look like we currently have in the report card, where, you do have to kind of bang around through a number of hallways. I mean, the info's there, but you have to, wander up and down several hallways to get it. And I was going to turn this into a question, but I don't want to put you in a position of violating your stakeholder group dynamic. What Dr. Nolan said is that they are in fact looking at, and nothing's anywhere near etched in stone, looking at something that is a visual that provides a very quick but yet comprehensive look at a number of data points beyond the single data point issue that's in the current rubric. And so maybe the question is, I see you nodding, maybe the question is, am I accurate in saying that? And was Dr. Nolan accurate?
I think they're making good progress, and I could certainly have my team, and I don't know if Wei wants to give an update now, but we could certainly bring an update to this body before the end of session and show you what we have so far, or what we've been mocking up. If you'd be interested in that, I could have my staff do that. And I don't know, Wei, if you want to just speak briefly about where we're at with that.
And I think that would be helpful, Commissioner. We could figure out a time to have that happen. Welcome.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Wayne Nguyen, Assistant Commissioner at the Department of Education. Yes, we've held about 30 stakeholder meetings across the state with subcommittee members, focus groups of parents, teachers, businesses. We've included realtors in it because they've always told us that they like that kind of snapshot kind of glance at schools. We actually do have another meeting, I believe it's April 10th, to again bring back to the stakeholders kind of, this is what we've heard, have we heard you right? It's kind of been an iterative process where we've provided them samples. We had a focus group meeting where we provided samples of, as the commissioner said, some of these really high-quality dashboards from other states, and we received feedback on what they liked about those and what they didn't like about those. We've also provided them mock-ups of, as what the commissioner said, is just updates to the current Minnesota report card to come into compliance with ESSA. So our plan is to, in August, when we announce the new schools and the schools that are going to be identified for support, that we would update our report card so that, again, you can see very clearly why the schools were identified. And then in December, ESSA requires all the new data elements that are required under the bill to appear on our report card. So in December of 2018, we will have another facelift of our current Minnesota report card to reflect new graphics, new terminology. We've heard a lot of things about making sure that we have definitions and clarifications or eye bubbles where you can kind of hover over and it explains what certain things are. So that's some of the things that you would expect to see in December. We've also, as Representative Mariani mentioned, we are working on a summary pane of kind of an at-a-glance My School. So we would tell just the parent, the community members, how their schools are doing, if their schools are improving from last year or over the last 3 years, or if they're holding steady, if they are in this top X% of schools in certain areas. As we worked with stakeholders, what we really need to do is just work on wording to also make sure that it's really clear to individuals what we mean by improving. Improving by what percent? How are you improving? Stuff like that. We've also heard very clearly that in addition to just the numbers and statistics, school districts and school sites want an opportunity to tell their story. So what can we tell you that is not part of the data? So we've also explored also having a section where principals, districts can also submit a letter to the community explaining their school story. So you may not see this, but we really emphasize music, or we emphasize STEM, or social emotional, whatever story the principal or the school district really wants to tell the parents and the community about their school that wouldn't be reflective in the data.
All right, thank you, Ms. Nguyen. Any other questions? Oh, I'm sorry. Representative Slocum, you had raised your hand.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Going back to special education, and I like trying to minimize the cross-subsidy, which my school districts have complained bitterly about for years. However, my in-the-trench teachers complain bitterly about the volume of paperwork and that they don't get to teach because they're busy filling out forms. And I was on the working group that supposedly did some paperwork reform. It was pretty minimal. And, going to a computer model is one thing, but the volume of work for special ed teachers in particular, with no real time accommodation unless they can wiggle around within their school district to get time for the paperwork. So they're taking time away from their special ed kids, their special needs kids, to do paperwork. Would you just comment on that?
Commissioner.
Well, that's been a struggle all these 7.5 years, Madam Chair, Representative Slocum, to try to find common ground with the advocacy groups around paperwork reduction. The first term of, the governor's term, I didn't go to one meeting with him where he didn't say, have you gotten that paperwork taken care of yet? And then he kind of stopped asking when I couldn't get the agreement with the groups. It's been really a struggle, I'll tell you. It's one of the things I wish we had been able to do. It's one of the hugest complaints that teachers make. My sister's a special education EA and support staff. And I say, Mary, why wouldn't you just become a teacher? And she said, because I don't want to do all that paperwork. I want to teach. And, we have our EAs teaching kids because our teachers are doing the paperwork. And I just think we have to, at some point, deal with this situation. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get that one done. But it's maybe something that we can look at. Maybe Representative Erickson can add that to the list of things to talk about with the group.
Representative Slocum.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, we are in dire need of special ed teachers.
Yeah,
And I think that, and they're leaving the field by the, because of the grinding paperwork that doesn't allow them to do what they want to do, what they love to do, which is teach the kids. So I think we do need to really look strongly at that and see what we can work. Thank you.
Representative Sandsted.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I can't help but draw a parallel or see a parallel in some ways between what's happening in the world of public education and childcare, in the sense of what could be perceived as overregulation, too many demands. Representative Slocum just talked about paperwork, taking place of teaching. And when we talk about our shortage of teachers, I want to keep that in mind, because I really think if we're going to have an honest conversation about why 82,000 licensed teachers have left the classrooms, this is part of the real conversation. I don't know if you want to comment on that, but the other thing I want to ask about in terms of the reporting, I noticed, in terms of reporting, I see on page 31 specifically, so much of this report is centered around reading and math and reading and math, and by all means, that's so important. But I feel like we're painting ourselves into a corner when it comes to evaluating success of schools or school districts or buildings. And then just another comment on page 32. In reporting, it looks like school sites and charter schools have to have a report, but where districts were once required to, they're no longer, maybe? I'm not sure if I'm seeing that correctly. Or is the district still reporting in there? Okay.
Representative Erickson or Commissioner, did you want to comment?
Madam Chair, Representative Sandsted, the teacher shortage is very complex, and I think a lot of that's driven by the workforce. Teachers just, quite honestly, can get paid more in other positions. And I think at some point, like other legislature, West Virginia, Oklahoma, South Dakota, North Dakota, they're finding that the legislature actually has to step in and deal with teacher salaries because they just don't compete any longer with the positions that are out there, especially for the level of college and training that you have to do. And so I think at some point, we're going to find ourselves back here struggling with, do we have to think about teacher salaries in terms of being able to fill the vacancies that we have. That's part of it. And then there's the other part of it, just as a profession, and I've said this before, when we have these rating systems that are just on proficiency, and I think you'll have some testimony later about kind of our tests, and people don't understand the standardized tests and the high test scores, the high cut scores that are needed for kids to pass these tests, and how I believe we're saying our students are not proficient, and that's misunderstood with what they're really capable of. And then they get blamed, and then there are all these arguments about tenure and all these other things that go into it. And basically, kids decide to do something else. And so it's extremely complex. It needs to be looked at. Probably be another really good working group to look at what are the issues, talk to teachers, and really try to get to the root of why, one, aren't we getting teachers? Why, two, aren't we getting a diverse group of teachers who want to go into the field? And then why aren't they staying in the field? Those are really good questions that I think we should struggle with in the next couple of sessions here, maybe in some working groups, and look if we can't find some solutions. Get ahead of it.
Representative Sandsted.
Thanks, this is much shorter. Is there a way of doing this where we can meet federal compliance and report on what we need to report without a report card? Sometimes, I mean, I've just seen ratings and stars and all that other stuff just really work in a way that it was not intended to work. And I'm all about accountability. I'm great for measuring. I think the data is very important in driving best practices. But I don't want to hang everything on a report card or a star system because I don't know, truthfully, I don't even know why, we're doing it that way.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner.
Representative Sandsted, there's a lot that has been put into this proposal, more so than what's required in ESSA in terms of the accountability pieces. But ESSA also requires a lot of other things that aren't in here that we report on. There's a fiscal transparency piece that we're going to need to report on. We need to report on some preschool elements, homeless and highly mobile students, foster students. There's a whole nother set of recommendations under ESSA that we're going to have to report on and that we're now working to do. This specifically here is about just how do you rate schools on their achievement and what they offer, and it's supposed to be well-rounded, but because we can't collect the well-rounded data yet, statewide, we're not able to collect those elements. But there are measures in this that don't align to our ESSA plan. My only really complaint is that we should really just have one system that's clear and easy for parents, but not too simplistic that it hides the gaps or hides the disparities or hides the real root causes for what schools can do to improve. The core reason for wanting to have a report card should be to help teachers improve the conditions in which children can succeed in school and to give parents the information to be good advocates for their kids. And so if we can accomplish those two things in a report card, that would be our ideal.
Thank you. All right, any other questions for the commissioner at this time? And I know we will be, after the break, probably coming back to have more testimony. We'll work with you, Commissioner, on your schedule on that, so. But thank you very much for being here today, and again, we've got a lot of people want to testify, and I just am guessing people don't want to come back after session today, so we'll just move on to testimony from others. Representative Erickson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before the commissioner leaves, I wanted to ask her, are paraprofessionals allowed to enter information for the IEPs and all the reporting that is involved around special education reporting?
Commissioner.
Madam Chair, Representative Erickson, I have to get back to you on that. I don't think that paraprofessionals legally can do that, but I would need to check with my staff on that. I know they can participate in all of that, but I think the teacher of record is the person who's legally responsible for a student's IEP.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner, because that is something that I think a lot of paraprofessionals or educational assistants, as you referred to them earlier, are involved in helping the teacher report the information. So perhaps we can figure out something there that's within legal. And in regard to your last statement about working together on the summative rating, I think you've struck a nice balance here that we can work on. Because keep in mind, for all of us, that the summative rating doesn't just focus on the MCAs. It has attendance in it, and it has high school graduation and English language learner progress. So we're covering those. The state plan, or the, I should say, the school rating focuses on ESSA and the district on the world's best workforce. So I think if we all work together, we can figure out something here. Maybe it won't have stars, but it might have at least something that parents can understand, because they have to be the focus of some kind of report card rating system. So I hope that we can proceed in that positive direction. Thank you, Commissioner.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Commissioner. All right. And you will do our best to get through folks who indicated they wanted to testify. If we don't get to you, I promise you, when we come back, not next week, but the week after, was it the 9th? Monday the 9th, we're back that week, that we will have an opportunity for folks to express their views about this, this bill. So, Kalia Pringle and Mustafa, I'm sorry, I'm going to mispronounce this, Derire? Derire, thank you. Thank you very much. And I'm going to ask all the testifiers to be brief so we can get through as many as we can between now and 2:45. And just please say your name before you begin your remarks so we capture that on the tape. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, my name is Mustafa Deriye.
Daria, thank you.
I am a community activist, educator, parent, organizer. And I'm here today to tell you that it's very important for me and my community that I serve the children are getting reading level. They're not getting the reading level they need. And they're having a lot of parents scratching their heads because the kids are graduating high school, but they're not going to college, and there's so many failure going on in the system. So, and if these kids are not get what they need, they will end up in a system. We all know that. And the best way that, as a community organizer, we reached out to a lot of parents. We ask them personal questions. What do you need? What is the most important for you? So our parents that I talked to, they want a summative rating, period. They wanted that rating to be in the system. It gives them opportunity to evaluate. It gives them the opportunity to make the choices they need. And it also helps the community overall. We use, I educate parents and then I show them dashboards. And then we have also a great book, Minneapolis School Finders. There's a lot of things that a couple of them I share with the parents and I educate them. But that's not all enough. And this summative rating is crucial for the growth of the community that I serve. I work with the parents who doesn't have usually their voice are not being heard a lot. So I encourage you to look at this, and it's very important. I mean, I hear people, like all the parents that I talk to, 9 out of 10 parents, they love this. They want to see something. They want to have the options. They want to have the options and look at and evaluate. We all have it. If I order now Uber, it's going to be a system rating. It's a fact. I mean, it's the reality. So what about the education? I mean, I know some people say it's too much paperwork, it's less money, but really that's not the case. The fact is we cannot have a shortcut for our future. You can't do that. We have a lot of people say like, okay, let's put every teacher and millions of dollars for the. We find the money for gun. If people want to buy teachers' arm and everybody, well, it's easy. They're 40 million, 50 million ready. But this is not ready for them. It's something that really, to me, is really a bit blown my mind. And I think that my final point is that please look at this. Parents want. I represent parents. Last two weeks, we brought a lot of parents here, almost 30 of them, and we can bring more if you want to see them talk personally. That's easy for me. That's my job. That's what I do for a living. So, but they need. And this is very crucial. That's what they need. There's no other way I can really honestly tell you. So I will end with that, and I will let my colleague Kulia say.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Kulia Pringle. I am an educator, parent organizer, and parent advocate. I just wanted to show my support for the summative rating assessment part of the bill. I don't think we need less accountability. We need more accountability, and the more that parents know, the better that they can advocate for their kids. Also, I was just going back to what Commissioner Cassellius was saying about it being 2 separate report cards, but when I read the bill, it didn't say there would be 2 separate systems. So I just wanted to say that in my understanding of the bill, that it would just be one system. It would comply with ESSA, and the only thing that would be added was the gap closure for students of color and gap closure for low-income students. and we need to know that information. The data is already out there. Parents already know that that their kids are students of color are in failing schools. We're just asking, give us the tools that we need. We can go to a space, see the data, know, especially with the ESSA being, the new ESSA plan being implemented next year, and school improvement is going to be added to that. If parents are to really be able to be engaged and help the school with their school improvement plan, they need to be aware. There's nothing like sitting in a room full of people and you have no idea what's going on, and you end up agreeing with a situation that you don't agree with because you don't have all the information. All we're asking that is parents have as much information as they need and in one place, and it be user-friendly. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kringle. And Ms. Maria, any questions for, oh, right, actually, we'll just keep going on with testimony because we have so many people. But great job. Thank you very much. Mr. Deal, and I know I've got some folks here who I know have traveled a distance, so I'm trying to get you in.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Mark Deal. I am the Director of Technology for Little Falls Community Schools, and I am here representing not only our school district, but also Minnesota Association of School Administrators and my fellow technology directors across the state. I'd just like to speak to you briefly about Article 5, the school district technology area of the bill. Just a few things that we would like you to consider. In the area of the contracts, we would really like you to consider going back to the original House File 1507 language that asked that those contracts be made available on request rather than us having to post them to our websites. Section 3, Subdivision 2, the audit trail. I want you to pretend for a second that all of you are students in my classroom, and I've got to fill out an electronic grade book. And Representative Krisha turned in an assignment, and I need to enter that grade just for him. When you look at an electronic grade book, it looks very much like an Excel spreadsheet, okay? So the question is, if I'm entering just a grade for Representative Krisha, am I accessing everybody else's data too? Because all the rest of your names would be listed there. Your grades on that assignment or any prior assignment would be listed there. So what does that mean? And as we interpret that language, we would have to have a software solution that would report that we accessed that student's individual data, all the rest of your individual data, but we really were only trying to get at Representative Krisha's. And so we're struggling with the audit trail language, and knowing that that sort of logging doesn't exist within our systems already. Our systems log changes. They don't log when a record is read. And so as software developers have to add that component to their software, that will come with a cost. That cost will ultimately be passed down to the districts as they enter into either new renewal agreements or new agreements with new providers. And the last area that I'd like to ask you to consider is under the school issued devices. Subdivision 2, Clause 3. If you look at that, that could potentially be in conflict with the Children's Internet Protection Act, which is required. It's a federal requirement for schools to provide internet content filtering. If we were to be in conflict with that and we weren't providing SIPA compliance as a school district, if you looked at if you took all the districts across the state, that would be a $30 million funding that would be lost to schools. And so we really would like to draw your attention to that. And under the school issued devices, Subdivision 3, Clause 1, we're asking students to consent to being monitored on their devices. We may have students who don't even understand what that means in first grade, second grade. We really want to encourage them to enter into agreements with the school and with the teacher for that. The types of tools that we're talking about are tools that allow the teacher to be able to see what students are doing on their device when they're in the classroom, because a teacher can't be at every student's desk at all time. But if by looking at one screen, they can see what those kids are actively doing. And many of those tools are very valuable to students who may have anxiety issues because they are afraid to ask questions in front of their peers. They don't want to look like they're asking, for lack of a better term, a dumb question. Those tools have the ability for a student to ask a question of the teacher without everybody else having to know. And they can send a simple message, can you please explain this to me? And that teacher can just then move over to that area of the classroom, explain that concept to that student, but nobody else has to really know what that conversation between that student and that teacher is about. So that's our suggestions. I'd be open to answer any questions that you may have. I understand in this fairness of time you want to hear from others, but please feel free to contact me if you have further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Deal. And Representative Scott, I know you wanted to ask a question. If you can be incredibly brief.
It's
and
incredibly brief.
I'm allowing it since you heard this as part of the Legislative Data Practices Commission,
Yes,
the
right.
genesis of it.
Thank you. So on line 66.18, in Article 5, so this is section, small letter 3 under the audit trail language. It says, paragraph A, clause 3 does not apply to technology systems that were in use prior to January 2019, which is not even here yet, and that lack the capacity to automatically record actions in log of use. So does that lend you guys any comfort that if you don't have a system that's set up to do that log of use, then it
I
doesn't
guess our
apply?
concern is
Mr.
that.
Deal.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, Representative Scott, our concern is that what happens after January 1, 2019? That's a fast approaching date, so if we are to utilize a new system, are they required to have that logging capability within it after January 1st? That's a very short timetable for any software developer to have to build that kind of capacity into their system.
I think maybe there's some,
Representative
thank you, Madam Chair. I think maybe the language there is a little clunky, but I think that's something we can address with Representative Lucero, and I think some of your other concerns are valid, and I think they can be addressed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for your testimony. Let's see, Mr. Pyan? And on deck, Mr. Poupart? John Poupart? Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the Education Finance Committee. I am Dan Pine. I'm the Director of Finance and Operations for South Washington County Schools. I'm here today representing the Minnesota Association of School Business Officials to speak on House File 3315, specifically the sections referring to school nutrition. Besides counting beans for the district and making sure we get about 14,000 students to and from school, we also have responsibility to ensure that every student who wants a meal from our school nutrition department receives a meal. In our district, that's about 13,000 meals a day. As in every Minnesota school district, there's never any intent to deny a meal to a student who needs one. We are compensated for these meals in two ways. One is through aid, free and reduced lunch, qualified people. We get aid from the federal and state governments, and the other ones are paid for by the parents or the families. We call those private paid. There appears to be a portion of our families who do not qualify for free and reduced lunch. However, they find it difficult to make ends meet, thus they can't pay their lunch bills. There's also another portion of the population of parents who know the system and just don't pay. Maybe it's a custody battle, maybe they forget a lot, or maybe they just don't want to pay. So we try. Letters, phone calls, emails, and the deficits just keep rising. In a survey we took quickly yesterday, 52 districts responded quickly, adding up a student council over 190,000, reported unpaid lunch balances of over $509,000 at the end of 2017. Even more alarming is that balance has increased 83% in the last 3 years. The language in this bill removes tools districts may need in attempting to collect unpaid lunch debts. Oftentimes, parents do not pay until it gets down to the last straw. Maybe lost opportunities, some of which are mentioned in the bill. We look for every way possible to feed all the students who need meals. We're lucky in our district. We utilize what's called an angel fund. We have plenty of people that make lots of donations. And we're able to pay these bills, although people aren't responsible for paying, we'll just take care of it so every kid gets a meal. But not all districts are lucky like we are. They don't have the population to support these kind of donations. As you can see, $509,000 in just 52 districts. And bear in mind, these deficits in Fund 2, which is School Nutrition Fund, are eventually paid for by Fund 1, which is the general fund, and that hits the classrooms. So as these deficits grow, we appear to be kicking the can down the road. The final eventual solution would be to provide free lunch to every student. I don't know how much that would cost statewide. I know in our district, because we have a low free and reduced lunch count, it could be about $5 million a year. Perhaps the state could establish a buffer program for those families on the edge of qualifying for free and reduced lunch, those ones that are just on the edge, which with incomes that are too low to afford to pay for lunch. At this point, we're asking that the tools the districts use to collect unpaid meal accounts are not taken away. These are our last resort tools. Trust me, they're last resort. But after many calls and emails, that's all we have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pyan. Mr. Poupart, and I apologize if I'm not.
You're close enough.
Please state your name for the record.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and members of the committee. My name is John Poupart. Used to be Poupar in the old country. Actually, I'm an American Indian. Just a bit about who I'm speaking for. I guess I'm speaking for myself and the experience that I've had as an American Indian over my lifetime, but also in my work. Tell you a little bit about myself that helps to qualify my being here is that I have an 8th grade dropout, but I also have a Harvard education. So put those two together and figure it out. My professional role is working with state government for 24 years, 8 of those years as the ombudsman for corrections, and also developed an American Indian Policy Center, which I researched many of these items that you folks, and I also wanted to say I give you my gratitude for your serving the people of Minnesota. I want to appreciate that very much. The point that I wanted to make today was in Section 20, the Academic Achievement Rating System. Over the years, I've consistently worked on what we call racial disparities, and they're not only in education, but in health, out-of-home placements of children, crime and delinquency, corrections. Any place you look in state services, we'll find a disparity involving American Indians. And our socioeconomic data also ranks us very poorly. Only 52% of our people graduate from high school. It's hard to tell what happened to the other 48, whether they willingly left or pushed out or how they left school. But the fact is that they did not graduate. And the point that I wanted to focus on is the academic achievement rating system of the 1 through 5 stars. I don't think that gets at the issues reflected in just that simplification. Regarding the American Indians, we have issues that are outside of that kind of metric or data indicators. There are quality of life. And one of the things that fails the educators is to acknowledge that American Indians are holistic thinking people, that we're basing our energies on our oral history, which was never written, recorded in writing. So we handed it down from one generation to the other. That's known as our culture. And a lot of that is missing from the education system. So we can't find that, and we are wondering whether we would be more secure or safe in these kinds of data measurements. Would the native language, which is a driver toward academic excellence and better outcomes, would the native language be measured, or somehow could be measured at? It's not being done and hardly even being offered in the system. The education system of America does not reflect the American Indian way of life, its culture, its traditions, and spirituality. Moreover, this type of assessment or measuring of what the 1 to 5 star schools will be is, after all, the students will be contributing to that measurement. So it's essential in my mind that we act in accord to also find out why some of our people are not going to be in the top rating. And unless we do that, unless we acknowledge the power of the culture of the people, then we will just simply be doing more of the same as we've been doing with our academic achievement scores. And how are we going to do this? We're going to institutionalize it. And so if we develop failure, we're indeed institutionalizing that failure. I would respond to any questions if you like.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Pupar. We very much appreciate your testimony and your service to the state. Are you still working for the state?
No, I'm retired.
You're retired, all
I'm
right.
working on my 3rd retirement.
Well, then, good luck with it. All right, I'm gonna, well, we've got a long list. I'm gonna take one more before we call it quits for today. Mr. Setharaju?
Just call me Raj.
Raj, okay, that works for me.
How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Okay, so my name is Raj, and I want to just simply say thank you all. Appreciate the time. I'm in support of this omnibus education bill. I'm also want to talk a little bit more about this idea of restorative practices being integrated into the process. I understand the need and necessity for trauma-informed educational process. As a recovering criminologist at Metropolitan State University, I see men and women and others in our prison systems, in our criminal justice system, often coming in dejected and rejected by our systems. And I'm reminded of this amazing quote, African proverb that goes something like this: "The axe never remembers, the tree never forgets." And we often subject our children who are trees with these scars from this system that is our axe, and often lands and leaves all these trauma and marks, and that goes a long way in terms of dejecting and rejecting our students and our pupils and our scholars. So I want to really emphasize the idea that yes, there is a need for this educational omnibus bill, but I want to also emphasize that you all, this great wisdom that is here, that will take this to the next level and push for us to integrate and involve parents who are wanting themselves to be restored, right? Many of our parents whose children are in our school systems have had negative experiences in our school system. And those negative experiences are not often addressed. And when our children lose people in our school systems, there is no way that our children are able to grieve the loss of the people they have relationship with. So I want to encourage us to think about how are we nurturing relationships in our school systems. As this young man in Stillwater Prison once told me, as I was leaving after a session with them, he said, "Yo, man, I'm like, yeah, what's up? He said, listen, man, I've been listening to y'all. He said, no, Raj, listen to our youth. I said, okay. Learn from our youth. I said, okay. And only then lead. We tend to sit in different capacities and we want to take right off, lead them, instead of listening and learning from them. I really want to encourage us to be able to create capacity to listen to our youth and restore their humanity and their capacity to become the scholars that we want them to be. Appreciate your wisdom again. Thank you all for the time. Have a good day.
Oh, and we have a short question, but before we get to that, so Raj, I do have to have you say your full name into the tape so we get that, and I'm not going to even try to pronounce it.
Don't. In the microphone. I'm like, where's the tape?
No,
Okay.
I'm sorry. all of our hearings are recorded so the public can listen to them. I'm sorry. I should have been more clear.
Okay. I didn't say anything to incriminate me.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. We didn't tell you about the camera either, did we? Sorry about that.
Name is Raj Sedu Raju.
They do Raju. All right, very good, thank you. And Representative Dabney, really short question
Yes.
because we're over time.
2 questions. Do we really use tape still?
You're asking the wrong person about
Sir,
So Raj is good.
Raj is good. Section 30 of the bill, don't worry about the details, I'll help you with that, walks through readmission plans. If a student has been excluded or expelled,
Yes.
how do you bring them back into school?
Yes.
And it talks about character education, social emotional learning, counseling, social work services, mental health services, special education services that should be considered for that plan.
Yes.
How do we bring Jim back into the school?
Yes.
Is that a place where we should also be talking about restorative practices?
Right? So can I just expand? There is a model that the Oakland School District uses, right? The Our Joy program that uses this particular model when our children come back, re-enter, right? Re-enter into the school system. You make sure that they have the support system. They may not be the labeled counselors and the labeled credentialed mental health helpers, but these mentors and others who are in that room help fulfill what the Native community often tell us, right? The spiritual chamber, the emotional chamber, the mental health chamber, and the physical chamber. All these chambers need to be filled for our children as they are re-entering. And so that could be our social workers, that could be our mentors. But let us also bring in community members who interact and interface with our children. And these individuals have a huge place. And what we could do is to do it in a restorative circle process. And that's when you're grounded. This is not about you coming in here with your intellectual component, right? If I may, postmodernists often say, enough with our intellectual masturbation. Let us integrate real humanity in this process of reintegration.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative Dabney. Thank you very much, Raj.
Love y'all.
Thank you. All right, and so I lay over House File 3315 for possible inclusion. For all of those who didn't get a chance to testify, enjoy your week away from the legislature, but we'll be back the week of April 9th, and we'll be in contact with you about if it's going to be Tuesday of that week, but we'll resume testimony. So with that, we are adjourned.